Some people stayed on board of the ship, and it was ice cold. So I was happy that I have a place downstairs. But after 7 hours, I have to go to the toilet. And I didn't know what to do. If I will take my bag, they will close. Everybody will move over, and I will lose my place. But if I will leave my bag, I'm in danger. So I asked maybe 8 or 10 people all around the shore, I'm leaving here my bag. I'm going for 7 minutes. And I ran as fast as I could. And I came back, and my bag was on the spot, but there was no bread inside. Because everybody took a piece and they ate it. There was no evidence. They ate the evidence. So for 4 days or so, I saw people eating bread, and I was only looking. And at the end of the trip, we came to Danzig. We were put in rows of 3. We were taken for 35 kilometers to Stutthof, and we were not taken into the camp, not to the main gate. We were taken to the side gate. There was a courtyard, and people were waiting, because groups of some 8 or 10 people were called in to a shower room, and that was a real shower room of water, not of gas. But groups were sitting down, and I saw that there were people that were eating bread. But you are not asking for bread at that time. That's not. But I saw that one group has flour, and I went over to them, and they gave me a fistful of flour. So after 4 days and a march of 35 kilometers, I got a fistful of flour. That was something entered my stomach, and we took a shower. The order was that we pass the shower, and then we take only our shoes and our belt, and we come out. Now, in a place where so many people die, it's very simple. I had already a belt, and I had already leather shoes. Then I said, you can't get it of dead people very fast. And that time I was naked, and there was a table. There were German officers, and that was the first time that I was not standing on the tiptoes, because I wanted to work always. So I was standing on the tiptoes, and I wanted to look elder. But when I was naked, I was sent to the children's barracks. So I knew that's the end, but no other way. There were some 450 children. Every day they were bringing new ones. Now we were chased outside the barracks every day, 2 times a day, and we were learning to make the Mitzenaufen. Every time we were leaving the barracks, there were guards with clubs, because we have to do it schneller. So it was very schnell, and we were making very nice rows, because we were told that we are lucky, because earlier years, when the row was not very straight, they would shoot along. But at our time, they were only giving some something to do, but not shooting. And there came more and more, and we were already Holocaust veterans. I was already more than 3 years hungry, and we were used to it. They were brought children from Belgium, from Holland, and they were crying. They were with clothes from the house, then little boys, and it was awful. And one day we were taken outside and we marched to the Arbeitsamt, this work office. And the German came out and he counted us, there were 507. And he wrote it in this transporter, we 507. And we were taken back. 3 days later, again, we were taken to the Arbeitsamt. But that time, they looked much better. And the German is counting, and there are 514. And that's Deutsche Ordnung. It's written in the transporter will be 507, not 514. So what would every normal person do? Would take the 7 first children and put them away? No, German Ordnung. He asked, who is here above 18? And that was the thing that I wanted to hear. With all my force I ran, and in some 15 seconds there were maybe 100 children. But there was a couple there, and I was in the first row of 5, and all of them were already organized in rows of 5. And the German came over, and they took the first row of 5 and 2 of the second row, and it can go away, you don't belong here. And we went, so from 514 we were left 7. And all the other ones were registered, their number and the name. And after 7 more days, they were called, and trucks were waiting for them. And they were told that they are going to a working camp. But the moment that the trucks moved, a Polish man came out smiling. They think that they are going to a work camp. They are going to Birkenau, not to Auschwitz. They are going directly to the gas chambers. So the 507 children were taken immediately. We came back to the barrack. We didn't know what to do. So we took a mattress from the downstairs bed and we lay on the highest bed on the 3rd floor, covered by a mattress, and we were waiting. What are we doing? Waiting. We don't know what to do. And then a Polish boy went by and shouts, "Who knows how to repair stockings?" And I decided that if I want to survive, I know everything. And I jumped off the bed and I said, "I know." And he took me to his boss, to a Polish couple. And I remembered that my mother would take a stocking and she would make crisscross. And I worked very hard, and the Polish couple liked my work. They said, "You are working for me, you will work for me." So I had already an address. Now he was a couple responsible for a barracks, but his barracks was empty. I knew that I do not want anymore to be in the concentration camp. So at one of the roll calls, I enlisted to go to a working camp. I said, I will rescue it and I will go to it. And in the meantime, before the group leaves, I was working with this Polish couple, and one day a transport of Jews came in. And I'm asking them, where are you from? And they say, we're from Kaiserwald, from Riga. And I knew that my uncle from Kaunas was taken to Kaiserwald. So I asked him, is by any chance Dr. Kronson with you? I says, yes, he's here. So I asked him, show him to me, because I didn't see him every several years, and I didn't see him ever in the clothes of a prisoner. So he was not inside. After 10 minutes he came back, and it was a very, very nice meeting, because I was sure from the moment that my mother and my sister didn't come to the camp in Estonia that I'm alone in the world. And all of a sudden I have an uncle. So I was already, I knew already my way in Stutthof. So I said, we have to leave I wanted to be up to the end of the war with you, I told him, but we have to leave Stutthof together. And then they announced the group that I've registered. So I asked of the Polish couple. He gave me a loaf of bread, and I came with a loaf of bread to the roll call. And I found some boy that agreed to change names and numbers, and I became Azriel Blecher, and he, as Saadia Bokshitsky, was taken. And after the war ended, I checked. Saadia Bokshitsky also stayed alive. He was rescued in Hamburg. And I, as Azriel Blecher, we were looking for a chance to leave Stutthof, and we went to Burggraben near Danzig, to a shipyard, to a submarine shipyard. And the next morning, several thousand of men were divided into 3 groups without asking for professions. So there were 3 groups and a small group left by side. The 3 groups were, one group went to the school of welding, school of blacksmithing, and the school of painters. And I, with my good luck, am a railway man, so I was with a small group attending the railways of the shipyard. And my uncle was at the welding school. Now, and then nothing is simple enough. The Russian front started getting near. The crazy Germans started to chase us to the west. Why? Because we couldn't be faster than the tanks and the cavalry of the Russians. And if they would take us to the west, the Americans came from the west side. But that's what's called the Dead March. So that was the Dead March of more than a week. Days are nice, but I have to come back the days before we went to the Dead March. We were working at the shipyard, and at that time the Germans stopped mass killing. They were killing, but not mass killing, because they didn't need it. It broke out in an epidemic of typhus, typhus Bahat. It's not not stomach typhus that is spread by lice, and everybody had lice. So one of the last days, near the last days of the shipyard, a group of sick people, that's what the Germans did. Instead of shooting or gassing, they took groups of sick people from one camp to another camp. So at that morning, at the roll call, it was announced, where are the doctors? So my uncle and his friend, Dr. Klebanov, went forward. They were sent to tend the sick people, but without any medicines, but they were sent over. And therefore, my uncle and his friend were the first ones to get typhus. And I tried to help my uncle, and I was the third one. But before it takes incubation time of 2 weeks. So my uncle was already sick. I also was, one of the nights, we were on the 3rd floor of the beds. I went down to the toilet, I came back, and I was climbing, and I fainted, and I was hanging down only several seconds, but people thought that I'm sick. They knew already. Now, we went on the death march when we were already sick, but still not far from there. My uncle already behaved like a sick man, but his friend and myself covered him up. We were pushing him. The Germans shouldn't see that he can't walk. And it was the death march just as it is called, because they didn't prepare food. So sometimes they would get, after every 3-4 days, they would get some bread among them. They didn't know. And we went on day and night, taking some rest near the road, sitting on the snow. That was our, and a great deal of people were reaching the end of the column, and they were shot. So we left a lot of the people there, until one night we came to, it was night, gate was opened, we were pushed in, and we went into, there was some camp. We didn't, only the next day we discovered that it was a summer camp of a Hitlerjugend, of the, so there were barracks. On that night we slept over in an open vehicle shed, and somehow there came a warmer wind at night, and some of the snow melted and flooded our shed, and my uncle got wet, and he started trembling. He was jumping, we couldn't help him. He was trembling all the night until morning. It was awful, and then he was very sick already, so he couldn't eat the bread. So I would take his bread and exchange it into potatoes. I don't know where I found a tin case of conserves, of some fish or something. And I don't know where I took matches, because I made a fire and I boiled some potatoes, and that's what my uncle was ready to eat. So I was tending to him, and he was very, very sick. And there were still some snowstorms, and we spent there some time, and we heard the cannonballs coming nearer and nearer, and then it was announced that the camp would be left. But 2 German officers came and took me personally. So I was sure that they would take me 50 meters aside, they would shoot me and we'd go back. But the front was so near that they didn't kill me. They brought me to a little shack. There was a little shack with two-story beds, a table and 2 benches. It was maybe a shack of teachers, of the instructors. And they opened the door, put me in, left me there. And maybe 20 minutes later, the door was opened one more time, and Germans brought in my uncle and his friend to the same little shack. We heard orders being given, and the camp left. All of a sudden, awful gunfire started. So we decided that they are now killing the Jews that are burnt out. Then they will come and finish us. That's sure enough. But they didn't come, because it became entirely quiet. After we were lying there in the little shack, opening the door, taking a fist of snow and chewing it to have some more water. After 3 days, the door opened. A Polish man asked us, "Do you have food?" So we said, "No, we don't have food." Several days, "What's your problem?" They'll say, a dead frozen horse. "Do you want some meat?" So I said, "Of course we want." He probably had a knife. So he cut some pieces of the horse. We broke a bench. Again, I don't know how we made fire. I don't remember this fact. We made a little fire, breaking the benches. We got some thin skewers, and we made shishlik of a dead horse. And you could see a nice picture. 3 typhus sick men sit and eat the dead horse in the room as a first food after 3-4 days of not eating anything. It took me some 10 years to think, why didn't we ask the Polish men what happens outside? We were dying, we were waiting for help, we didn't ask him. And a day afterwards, the door opened and a Russian soldier stood there. So the first thing we should ask him, where can we get help? So he said, I don't know, I'm just a soldier, a regular soldier. And he opened his coat, took out a flat flask, gave every one of us a slug of vodka, and we were free. What we realized, we asked him where to get help, so he said, he doesn't know. But he showed us a direction. He said, 3.5 kilometers this direction, there is a Russian military policeman. He will tell you where to go. So he gave us this vodka and we went away. We were free people. we decided we will go these 3.5 kilometers, but we will not start because it will be before the evening. We waited until the morning, put on our torn clothes, and we tried to walk, but for one side Dr. Krebano, for one side myself, and in the middle my uncle. After 5 Saadia, my uncle collapsed. We hardly could raise them. He went a little bit, collapsed again. We saw that there's no way to walk with him 3.5 kilometers. So we somehow brought him to a barracks that was on a hill near us. We entered there. There were Jewish sick women on their beds. We left my uncle on the floor there. He was very, very sick then. And Dr. Krivanev and myself went the 3.5 kilometers. Now, all the way were scattered corpses of our guards and dead horses, because the shooting that we were hearing, that was the passing of the front. The Russian army passed there, and they killed the guards, and the Jews disappeared. We didn't know where. So we went 3.5 kilometers. There was a Russian military policeman on the road, near the crossroad. On the road there were a lot of wagons, horse wagons of German refugees were driving, and the policeman said, we'll put you on a wagon and go with them and up to the town of Lauenburg. It's not far. Now it's in Poland, Lemberg. And he put us he stopped the German family, and we went on the wagon and we started going. After a kilometer or so, it was stopped by Russian soldiers. The Russian soldiers used whatever they knew in German. They knew 2 words. It means Frau komm. That's woman come. Frau komm. They wanted to get the daughter of the German family. So the head, the father of the family, took out a golden watch and gave it to the Russian. The Russian took the golden watch and they wanted that girl, the girl. So her mother wanted to volunteer to go instead of the daughter, but the Germans, the Russian soldiers didn't want. They wanted the daughter. They took the daughter. The German wagon stopped. We waited. After some half an hour, the daughter returned half dead, and she was crying. She went on the wagon and was crying, and no word was spoken there. And we were going on, and then there was an air attack. I believe that there was an air battle, but the airplane came on the convoy on the road, and all the wagons stopped, and the people dispersed in the field. Now, after the airplane passed, I came back to the same wagon, and he wants to go, so I said, no, you don't go. My friend is not here. And we waited some half an hour, and Dr. Krivanov didn't come. So no way to do anything. I told the German to go. We went into the town of Lauenburg. The town of 30,000 people was empty. And the wagon with the German goes into town. All of a sudden I see a Jewish man standing there. There was a little wider, the road got wider, there was not a circle, there was a wide place. And I asked him, are there some Jews here? So he shows me a building three-floor building, and he says, there in this house there are Jews. So I stopped the Germans, and I went. The house was some 30 meters from the road. There was a path to come. Downstairs, I found a door. I opened the door. There were two German women. I asked for bread and water. I ate and drank, and I fainted because I was already very sick. But there was something interesting. When my fever was high, I was more or less acting. I was talking nonsense sometimes, but I was talking. But when the fever fell, I fell also. So I was sleeping in this on the floor where the two German women were. And when I got up, my uncle's friend, Dr. Klebanov, was in the same room in a city of 30,000 people, by chance. When I got up, I told him I'm going to look for help for my uncle. So he said, you're not able to. So I said, I'm able. And I started to walk. When I reached the street, I fell again. I crawled back and I slept. I don't know how long I slept. But when I got up, my uncle was in the same apartment. And all there were people on both floors. No one of them survived. Because we started to eat something. We found, after several days, my uncle started to function. Only his friend had some complication of the typhus, and he had awful pain in his legs, in his feet. So we found a pharmacy, and my uncle found there vitamin C. He would give vitamin C to us, amount of tablets for a year he would give us every day. And I found 20 liters of jam, and I kept it near my bed, and I would always take it. I had a spoon, I would take a spoon of jam. And we started somehow living, and then one evening, knocks on the door. And we opened, and there were Russian soldiers shouting, your house is on fire, you have to come out. And they took my uncle, and they brought him across the street to a little house. There was still snow, and I wanted to, I was sure that I can't put on shoes to Dr. Klebanov, but I wanted to put in stockings, at least stockings, because I can't take him out to the snow when he's so ill. And I held back, and he's shouting, and I put on one stocking, and the Russians are opening the door. You will be burned. And somehow, after a short time, I succeeded to put on the second stocking, and a Russian sergeant came in, and we took Dr. Klebanov from both sides. I from one side, the Russian sergeant from the other side. And at the second we were in the door. The second we entered the doorways, the house collapsed. And all the Jews that were in the two stores, all of them were burned alive. What we learned very quickly, that the Russians found a factory of vodka. They drank as much as they could. They filled their canteens with vodka, and two of them had a bottle of 50 liters. and they came in town. And now, after they rescued us, and the house was burned, they said what the Russians were always saying: if you're our friends of ours, you are drinking with us. If you are not our friends, you are our enemies, so we'll shoot you. And they shoot several bullets into the ceiling. And they found 3 tin cans, and they filled it with vodka, and they gave to the 3 of us. So my uncle said, be careful, the child cannot drink so much. So and they are angry. So he said, I will volunteer, I will drink his vodka too. And my uncle drank two cups of vodka, and he slept more than 24 hours. But when he felt good. We discovered some medical discovery that a lot of vodka for a person that had typhus was good. So there are many things. Oh, I think I spoke too much. After some time, when we ate already, my uncle rescued many Jews, because after the camps they started to eat. And then, yes, so he found in the pharmacy applesauce, and he gave them a diet of apples only, and I saved them. Now, when we got a little bit stronger, we wanted to go back to Lithuania, because my uncle had a wife and 3 children. He left in Lithuania. So we went to the railway station. It was outside Lauenburg. And they were laughing at us, because they said, you don't go to the east. To the east, you have first of all to be some weeks in the quarantine. But there is a waiting list of several weeks. Come after 3 weeks, we will go into the quarantine, and then we will see. When we went back to town, we heard that a Russian military hospital got the building of a German hospital, and they start working, healing the Jews from the camps around. So my uncle and Klebanov got departments at the Russian hospital, because the commander of the hospital and his deputy, both of them were Jewish doctors, and they studied in Moscow at my uncle. And my uncle in Moscow, and my aunt's husband was a professor at the faculty of medicine. So after several months, with a lot of stories, because I was involved, I was working as an interpreter, German and Russian, and there were groups of villages that had to supply food to the hospital. The hospital didn't get supplies from Moscow. So there was a Russian sergeant, there was a Russian soldier, a girl, that was managing the kitchen there, and the Germans of several villages were working for us. And then the sergeant came over to the hospital, and he asked, is there someone that can interpret German to Russian? So I went to the village, and after some time of making vodka and drinking vodka, because I realized after half a year that I have never sown money. Everything was for I wanted shoes. So they made for me shoes at the shoemaker's shop of the Russian division, because I gave them several bottles of vodka. And I would take parts of bicycles from the Germans. I would mount bicycles, paint them, go to the vodka factory and exchange it to vodka. I had a hand watch. I was made shoes. And after several months, we got a letter from the commander of the hospital, and we went to Berlin. And also we take with us some 8 bottles of vodka, because we reached Stettin was the end of the Russian zone. Of the Russian zone, and the train, the Russian railway has another dimension than the Western. A train cannot go from Russia to the West. They must change trains. And in Stettin, we finished going with the Russian train. We went off. There were some 4,000 or 5,000 people waiting at the train station. There were no station, they were waiting, and they were always shooting, because like in the Wild West, they were robbed. So we decided that the next train would be next morning. We will go back to town and we will sleep, but we will go to the police station. And we gave the policeman 2 bottles of vodka, and we asked if we can sleep over with him. So he said, last night they threw a hand grenade into the station. There's no chance that they will throw a hand grenade this night also, so you can sleep here. And in the morning we had still vodka. We gave it to two officers who brought us to the railway, and when the train from the west came over, the Russian soldiers pointed the weapons, and they put us on the train, and then we went away, so the other ones came over. And then after some 10 days in Berlin, the train went to Berlin. We were there at a place that were Jews from the camps were concentrated there, at the Rickerstrasse. I remember the name, and 40 years after that, I took a guided tour in Berlin, and we reached Rickerstrasse. So I said to the guide, I remember the name. I was in Rickerstrasse. So yes, you were here. It took me a little bit farther. There was a stone plate was saying that here were concentrated the Jews. So we were said that an airplane will wait to take a group of young people to Palestine. And Russian military trucks came to take us, but they didn't stop at the way to the airport. They were taking us. We were driving almost all the night to Frankfurt. And from Frankfurt we were put on a train, and we were sent to Paris. And in Paris they didn't know what to do. We were a group from, so a long stories, but it took me less than 12 months. I was liberated March 10th, 45, and 27th February 46, I reached Palestine, Haifa. So I'm laughing always when I'm talking to children that the airplanes were flying very slowly at that time.
And can I ask, Saadia, at this time, did you know what happened to your mother and your sister?
I didn't know until 1970, because my sister stayed alive when they took my mother to Ponar. They were hiding in this hiding place in our apartment 14 days after the liquidation of the day. After 10 days, people came and took the furniture, so they took the cabinet. But they kept the handle of the door so strongly. There were 13 people inside. There were 14. I was reborn in Israel because I went to the Aliyat Noar, and I was, after a year and a half, I was an Israeli. And we had a very, very successful group. They wanted us to found Eilat in Rash. That was after the decision of the United Nations in 47, in 29 of November. So, but the independence was started, and we volunteered to the Palmach. You know what the Palmach is? The UN. There was elite infantry unit, and we were at the 5th Brigade fighting for Jerusalem. So my group lost, our brigade lost 23%. You know that the population of Israel lost 1%, so 600,000 lost 6,000, and we lost 5 were dead, and 7 were in the hospital, wounded afterwards. And I was among the founders of Yishuv Bishlat, a new settlement above Latrun, the way to Jerusalem, in Tel Gezer. Now it's the archaeologists ruined all because Gezer was given as a present to King David, I think, by Paro. So I was for more than a year at Kvutzat HaMilim Tel Gezer. It was, and there were problems because we didn't have girls. There were 12 girls, 8 of them married at the very beginning, and we were about 80 people there. So it exploded, and then they didn't want to let me to go. I wanted to be an engineer because when I was in the 3rd grade, I wrote that when I will be an adult, I want to be an engineer to go to Palestine and build the homeland. So I was at the age of 8, and so I decided to learn, and it was not so simple because I didn't learn 4 years. You know, after the Holocaust, my handwriting was of the 1st grade. It was entirely degraded. Although I'm working at the ghetto, I get my most important award, because afterwards I got the Pras Bitochon Israel. That's the award by the president for the defense of Israel. But that's nothing, because at the ghetto they made a course for apprentices, and I took it very seriously. we learned mechanics and electricity, and I got a prize. I got a whole kilogram of sugar. That was like thousands of dollars. That's really unbelievable. I came home with a kilogram of sugar. So, but I left. They tried to influence me not to leave the world, to work at politics, because they thought that I'm built for it, and tried to influence me. That's a long story by itself, but I went and I worked and studied, and 52 I started the Technion. I made my matriculation exams, but they would give the diploma after a year. So my picture of the diploma, I have already the sign of the Technion, because they would get the knowledge before we get it. And I started studying after 3 years of study, and I worked very, very hard, because I had to pay tuition, I had to pay my living and food, and it was very hard. But I did it. But after the third year, I met my wife, and was married. So the fourth year, I was already all set, because my wife was a teacher. And before that, and I used to visit her. Somehow my shoes were scratching. She was living with the family, so she bought me a pair of shoes, and she bought me pajamas, and I was ready to get married. So we were married, and then we went for a student exchange program to Europe. And we came back, it was 56, that was the sign I wore. And when we entered the ship in Marseille, the war began. It was, I saw it in the French newspapers. Before going, I applied to several places to go to work. But when we came, the day we arrived, there was the end of, there was no light, you shouldn't show light, it was darkened because of the war. And that was the day when they stopped it, because it took a week, more or less. But I was looking for my military unit. I was in the reserve forces, and all of a sudden I got a letter that I was accepted to Rafael, Armament Development Authority. I wanted to work somewhere near Tel Aviv, but no, there were no men outside, and until I waited to find where my unit is. And I got an order. A man came to tell me that next morning I have to come to Rosh Pina. And I somehow found the first bus, and the bus, some days before it, was attacked by Arabs, and our driver was afraid to go. But when I came to Rosh Pina, I found my military unit giving back their equipment, because they were afraid that it was the end of the war. And so I went to Rafael, and I worked for 37 years. There I got my Prize Bitachon Israel. I got the most important award that I got for me, it was most important that I absorbed many young engineers. When they reached high ranks at work. So they decided that I have to get an award for what I did for them. So I was at that time at Stanford as a visiting professor, and I heard that I was given the award, and my children get it in my name. So I worked 37 years, and at the age of 65, after 37 years, I left, and I decided every day less of an engineer, more an artist, and I made a career as an artist. I have already nearly 30 environmental sculptures, big ones. And I have made more than 31 personal shows. And I showed my work in Japan, in France, in Austria. I have a sculpture in Cyprus. Yes, Cyprus is they have an agreement with Haifa. They are brothers. So I made two towns, two brother towns on a common sea. So I made waves and two rings interwaved. So now everybody that is marrying in Limassol takes a picture with my sculpture.
And this is, I think, also part of your...
that's something, nothing, because in my real home, I have more than 300 works at the display.
This is beautiful. And on a more serious note, and can I ask you, Saadia, when did you find out what had happened to your mother and your sister?
In 1970, my sister came. She studied in Lithuania, but she was afraid. It was a Russian Lithuania. She was afraid to ride.
Did you know that she had survived? Did you know that she had survived the war?
Yes, at the Russian hospital, my uncle wrote a letter by military mail to Kaunas, and it was hanged at the Jewish community there. And after 3 weeks came a letter which announced that his wife and the 3 children were burned alive the last night when the Germans withdrew. They put on fire the entire street, and they were there in the basement. And it was written there that my sister survived. And then I got 3 letters during 27 years that I didn't see her. And when she came, in my book it's called The Story. And I bring it here. You'll also hear the stories when she came in 1970s, near the end, but here I'm writing about them. They went into a hiding place when the ghetto was liquidated. And I told you that 10 days after the liquidation, the furniture was removed, but on the 14th day, Polish men get the responsibility for several houses, and he discovered the people in the hiding place, and he called the police. And there were 14 when they entered. One woman died there, and she was thrown out, and 13 people were. When the police came, they asked, "How many are you?" And the old man, the one for the family that lived with us, and who said that we were 13. And everybody was angry at him, because there was a girl of the age, more or less of the age of my sister. She went into a cupboard. My sister wanted to go to the same cupboard. She didn't let her. And the policeman found her and took her away. My sister went into the kitchen. the kitchen was without windows. There was a baking oven and a cooking stove with a narrow place between them. And all of the kitchen was black because there were no windows, and it was entirely dark. My sister stood between the cooking stove and the baking oven. And then everybody was taken. They found only 12 people. They were looking around, they didn't find my sister, and they went away. But when they went down with all the people, one of the policemen came back, went straight to the kitchen and told my sister, "You think that I didn't see you, I saw you, but you're in such a bad situation that let God help you," and he left.
Was it a Lithuanian policeman?
What can I say? My sister was not consistent. Once it was a Lithuanian and once it was a Ukrainian. I don't know who it was. But the fact is right, but I don't know. She changed the version. And so my mother was taken to Panar, and my sister jumped over waited until night. She jumped over the fence of the ghetto, and she went to our apartment. Our maid, Rosalia, was in the apartment, but she said whenever, the moment she saw my sister, said, "I can't keep you because my friend is a policeman, and he will take you to the German police." So she asked her at least to let her sleep this evening, and she Rosalia showed my sister, "Here, you see, I'm keeping the things of Bokshitskene. My mother, you don't touch it even because it's only for your mother." And she put her to sleep on the floor, and her friend came, and she somehow persuaded that my sister is a relative of hers from the village, and he shouldn't touch her, he shouldn't talk to her. And in the morning she went, my mother gave her the address of the son of his friend that was a doctor in Alytus, and his son lived in Vilnius. So my sister knew his address, but she came there to go to him, and she found a German police station downstairs, but there was cleaning the floor, and a broom. She took them and she went up the stairs. So the Germans didn't pay attention to her, and she knocked on the door of this the son of my father's friend. He opened the door and he saw a girl that 2 weeks she didn't wash herself. She was stinking, and he closed the door, but she managed to put her leg so he couldn't close the door, and she told them that she is Bokshitsky, and he let her in, and they were very interesting things, because I got a year ago, I got a memoir of a teacher of my sister that organized for her a document. The man that rescued her, first of all, gave her clothes of his wife. She washed herself, was stinking, and he called my sister's teacher, and she agreed to prepare papers for her. And so now exactly the details, because she wrote it in her memoir, that she met the Janavicius, Kazis Janavicius, and she went to the school after the hours. The school, she was the principal of the school, and I was the secretary, and she found the document for their students, and she knew a girl, a student that died some 2 years earlier, so she had a name, she was Valeria Karalevichute. Now she needed a passport picture, so her daughter had a girlfriend. It was a Karaim, I think, and she was dark. So she decided that that's the nearest picture to a Jewish girl. So she put the picture on the document, and she made the stamp on the face, and that was my sister's document. So I know that my sister didn't behave well. The family that rescued her, that she came to them, they couldn't keep her because there were the Germans downstairs. So they found somebody that lived in a farther away area in Vilnius, and they took my sister there. And her teacher writes that Lila was very impatient. They went with her, and she was talking with full voice, and she said, "When I was in the ghetto," and the teacher said, pulled her by her arm, "Be quiet, people were here, listen to you." Oh, she was awful. Then when she was with this man in the apartment in Vilna, he told her not to go in the street. Nobody should see her from the window. But she went out in the street, and then they found a truck that was going to Alytus, and the man sent my sister to his mother in Alytus. But his mother had 2 German officers that were living there, and she kept my sister for several days in the basement. And her maid knew about it, and she would bring her food. And then she managed to find a place in a village with villagers which were ready to accept my sister. And then she looked for a driver that can take her to the village. And if she found somebody, I met him after years when he got an award from the president of Lithuania, the one that drove her, and the family of the village got awards for rescuing her. But then the mother of this man came over to my sister and told her, "I found a place to put you in the village, and I found a driver to take you, but I'm not sure if the driver will take you to the village or he will take you to the German Gestapo, because the Gestapo pays for it. He can't get money." So she let my sister to decide if she believes or not, and my sister decided to go to the village, and there she was rescued. That's also very many things.
And you didn't manage to meet each other?
No, only 1970. Because I didn't return to Lithuania, and she was in the Russian Lithuania. She was afraid to write to me. So 3 times she wrote to me.
And did she get married?
She got married, but she had no children. She had problems with her husband. She lived in Haifa, and she died 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
That's a long
And I just want to ask you, Saadia, because it's so, when you saw your sister after all those years, it must have been incredibly emotional.
Oh, that was something. I managed to write her a letter to her when she came from Lithuania. We knew that the people that are going from Lithuania to Israel are concentrated in Vienna, in Austria. And there was a mother of a friend of ours. She was coming to meet the people. So I sent a letter to my sister. The letter is part of the letter is here in the book. Somewhere. That's my wife at a young age.
Can we just show? Because it's a beautiful picture.
She's serving in the Navy.
And how many years have you been married?
Please?
How many years?
We are married 69 years.
And
at the 68th anniversary, I told my wife that it's a very, very impressive number, 68 years, but 70 years is nicer. So we are now working towards 70 years.
It's wonderful.
So June the 2nd was 69 years.
That's wonderful.
So there is, must be the copy of the letter which I wrote to my, I don't remember where it is. This is the sign of the Pras B'Tachon Israel, the President Award.
And who was the president who gave the award?
Please?
Who was the president?
I think that there was Ezer Weizmann, I think, at this time. I don't remember already.
It's a big scotch, it's a big honor.
Yes, but where is? There are two letters. There is my speech in the name. Here I went in the Palmach. Where is it? Oh, that's after a battle.
If you can just lift a little. It's incredible. But your meeting with your sister,
please?
Was it it must have been so emotional.
First of all, my sister asked if we have a store of flowers, because my friends at work sent to me so many flowers that the room was, our apartment was full of flowers. So she asked, do you have a business of selling flowers? It was very interesting.
And what did you speak? Did she still remember her Yiddish?
We spoke Yiddish, and very soon she learned, she got back her Hebrew.
Her Hebrew.
And I spoke to her Yiddish, and I was telephoning her. She was at an ulpan, and one day I called her, and I started speaking to her Hebrew. I said, so do you have to speak Hebrew on the telephone also? How come I don't find my letter? It should be like, that's my speech in Yiddish that I gave in the name of my group. I had a farewell to we were for several weeks in a Jewish orphanage in north of France, Cailles-sur-Eure. So that's my speech.
And how old were you when you wrote the speech?
Please?
How old were you at that time?
I was 17.
17, wow. And your Hebrew, you were fluent in Hebrew?
Yeah, but it's a very nice Zionistic speech. And I'm telling them that there are many people that worked for for the fatherland that did much contribute more than us. So they should be allowed to go to Eretz Israel before us. But if the Jewish the Ben-Gurion, they decided that we shall go before, so they want the young people to fight. So we will repay our debt that will come. It's a very nice speech.
It's wonderful.
Talking here about that we will build our fatherland, and there will not be any more Russian Jews and Polish Jews. Every Jew will be a Jew that has his fatherland. And to my sister I also wrote a letter, but I don't know where it is.
And Saadia, your family, they became close with your sister as well?
Please?
Your family, they were close with your sister, your wife and your family?
Yes, but we had problems because she was already more or less a Russian, and she had another approach, and her husband was he was a manufacturer. He had a little fabric of 35 people, and he was the president of the fabric. And so we had problems.
But her husband came as well?
We were close, please.
Her husband came to Israel as well?
Please?
She came with her husband?
She married here.
She married here?
She married here. And he didn't want her to be pregnant because his wife committed suicide. A lot of problems. There are many of my works. Even in the I call it shchol. You know what shchol means? It's the but there is the dead son is like the parents and the dead couple. But I don't know.
It's magnificent, wow.
I see that I didn't put here monuments. That's part of my studio.
And you've enjoyed it? Please? You've enjoyed doing the art?
Oh,
it's incredible.
It's interesting because here you have some pictures of monuments at the end. It's only an epilogue.
So here we have these pictures.
Here, this is in Cyprus. This is in Cyprus. That's an early picture of our clan. We have a nice, because I have 8 grandchildren and 5 plus great-grandchildren. So we are very
wonderful.
Large.
And Saadia, if I can ask you, what message do you impart to your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren?
First of all, I'm very proud that my 3 children know exactly my story, but no one of them has complexes of the second generation. They are regular Israeli people, because there are very many people that had survivors as parents that are complicated for 1 or 2 generations. Yes, at work. I put only 2 pictures at work. for the 37 years.
That's
Yes,
incredible.
apropos the first Israeli missile.
And you helped.
I was the chief engineer of ground support equipment. I made the electrical, the mechanical launching for. That's for the artillery. I launched this missile from an airplane and from a destroyer, from a ship. The Achi-Lat, the destroyer that was sunk by the Egyptians, its torpedo shooting device is in the museum here because I took it off before it was sunk.
Wow. Saadia, I just want to thank you. I'm going to... if I can just come inside.
So I want to take it to give you a book.
Saadia, I will treasure it, but here you have your book in Lithuanian as well.
No, in Lithuanian they don't have many. I have 1,000 books in Vilna, but they didn't. They asked for me for 1,000 books and they are not able to sell.
Wow. Well, Saadia, I want to thank you. It's been the greatest honor and privilege. There are no words. What you went through, and to see you sitting here, and you are so positive, but you've been through like hell. You've been through a real hell, and you've come out of it, and you smiling.
To hell
and the
and
name
back.
of your book is From Childhood Paradise to Hell and Back.
Yeah.
You are somebody I think we can all strive to emulate. You are an example. You have such a tremendous zest for life, and you were so Zionistic, and you helped establish this country. And
Yes.
I am just in awe. I really am. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been the most extraordinary privilege to be here in your home in Kiryat Bialik, and I am extremely grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
You should at maybe stream plus mom. Many more years of happiness and just joy and smachot from your family.
I will at least sign it for you.
Thank you so much. It is such a... I'm so grateful to you.
Yes, I hope that you will enjoy reading the first part about my happy childhood. The second part, my Holocaust story, may be difficult to read, but I believe that the direct testimony is important for the next generations.
And Saadia, from you doing this interview, people will be so inspired, and I think whoever watches this interview, they won't be the same afterwards.
I have it. I'm giving Zikaron Basalon. You know what it is. So this year I had 4 of them, and so I'm meeting many people, and then filmed. If you enter Wikipedia in Hebrew, Wikipedia, Saadia Bahat, so you find links to video films, to different things.
It's so important.
And the film of Yad Vashem, I'm always laughing that the film of Yad Vashem is a Holocaust for vegetarians, because they do not give really hard facts. Well, it's a film for the school of the Holocaust studies in next generations, and they do not want to keep it very strict. So they...
But I think what we've done today, you've told it as it is, and it's so important. Saadia, thank you so very much.